morning, Rucker.
Morning, Polly.
Episode 3. Can you believe we're on episode 3? And are you having fun yet? I love this.
Amazing.
This is crazy. Hey, listen, I got a question for you this morning. Is profit a bad word?
No.
No, it's not a bad word. Does the consumer think profit's a bad word?
I think depending on, what their background is, they could, but maybe not.
Or what they think is fair and not fair?
Yeah, I think that's more the case.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So let's talk about this. You referenced it, I think, maybe twice now.
Yeah.
The lady at the bank. And you and I were there together.
Yeah.
You keep referencing her, and I think it's important that we start here today, this morning. She thought, and I quote, her guess was, or she said, my guess is you make $5,000 to $10,000 per car sale transaction that's done.
Yep.
How close was she?
Not
Not
close.
No.
But that's my favorite part about doing this is getting to talk about these things. I mean, and I guess we should kind of go back and talk about, the structure of the episodes and everything. We know that these first few episodes are just very generalized because we want to see what you guys and gals think, and what you want to see us to expand upon. But profits, we were talking about it in the last episode. Do we want to do it next? But I think that's the part that excites the workers about it. I think from the outside looking in, you hear so many different industries, what percentage of sales are profits? You hear of a fully commission-based industry and you go, well, I don't want any part of that.
No.
We've made pay plans to try to just drag people in because once you see it, you'll want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me, it's a lot of, okay, the profits are way smaller than you think they are. But the owners pay way more of the profits than you would expect. Think about in the real estate industry, what percent does a real estate agent get?
Usually 3 and 3, right? The seller and the buyer each get 3, so it's 6% going out on a car, on a home transact. And you think about it, some homes are 7, 8, 900,000, $1 million home. Do the math. Is that fair? Not fair? These are things we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, that's
right.
That's my favorite part. How does my business relate to your business? What is the percentage difference higher, lower? Are we the lowest percent business when it comes to net profits of anything out there? Would you, if you had enough money, even want to buy a dealership?
That's another argument. Right?
Yes, that is.
Yes, it is.
Anyway.
So let's talk about, let's start, first of all, in a car dealership. We've talked about this on how many departments are there, right? We talk about fixed operations or the back of the house where we have service and parts and body shop. Then we have the front of the house, new and used cars, basically, right?
Yeah.
Not basically, that's what it is, right? Yeah. So variable and fixed. And we talk about it. Do we make profits in all the departments or just one of the departments? Most people just think it's the new and used car department. And the other ones are just, that's what we have to do to keep the cars on the road so that we can sell cars. Do we make profits in the back end of the house?
Whether you see it or you don't, we make profit in every single thing that we do. Because even the stuff we lose money in, which, by the way, we purposely lose money sometimes.
Why would we do that? Yeah, right.
You'll learn that in further episodes where we're talking about financial statements and the impacts each one of them as we go through exercises to show you what manipulations change things. It's going to affect profits. And it's funny, as we've done our trainings over the years and then we've ran the stores, every decision you make will change the profit number, good or bad.
Percent it will. So let's start in variable, should we?
That one sounds easy.
Might as well,
yeah.
Right? So new and used cars is variable. So we're just going to talk about them together, right? A car sale, right? An average amount of profit, or what we call gross, on a car deal is where you would start it, because profit's not the gross. Would you agree with me on that?
Absolutely.
So what comes out of the gross to get to the profit? Expense?
All of it.
All of it. So if we have gross on a deal and we take out the expense, we get to our net or our profit on that said deal. Now, there's a lot of factors, so I don't want to get into the minutia on that. Let's just talk about an average car sale.
Correct.
Okay. We sell an average, we'll start with new. A new widget is on your lot. Okay. The factory, do they or do they not set a price that you're allowed to sell a car for, whether it starts at the MSRP or whether you're with a domestic store that has an employee price or not on the car? But is there a set price that the factory even starts with on a car? Where do we start?
Yes. No. So I think we start with MSRP.
Yeah.
Which stands for manufacturer
suggested retail price.
And then you brought up domestics having employee pricing. Does every manufacturer have employee pricing?
I don't know. Do you
Yes.
know? Oh,
Yes.
you do know.
Yeah.
Yes, so do I.
But
So here's
but
how that
luxury
works.
world.
Go ahead.
So like in the state of Michigan where we live, where we do business.
Yes.
I came from luxury A, right? And they have their financial arm in the state of Michigan. So they would have employee deals coming from their financial arm. But yeah, many, I would assume all manufacturers have employee pricing.
They do that, and that is a fact.
Yep.
And they all do have that, and they're all a little bit different on the percentage of the MSRP
Yep.
that they give to their employees. But most of them have rules and regulations built around that employee price. So let's just do an example. Let's just start with an
Sure.
example. We have a widget that has an MSRP of $40,000.
It's a cheap one.
That's a cheap widget.
Yeah.
Well, nowadays it's cheap.
Yeah.
And the employee price, for instance, on that deal, let's say is $6,500. That's the starting price. Before any rebates or any specials or anything is given to that vehicle, that's the starting price of the car.
Right.
And then there's things called rebates. These rebates are what you do or do not qualify for. That the factory says, hey, listen, if you're, for an example, a returning leasee of our product, will give you X amount of dollars off the vehicle. Right. Or whatever it is. So different people qualify for different things. Okay. But at the end of the transaction, on an average vehicle, what's the average amount of quote unquote profit or gross on the car that is in a typical vehicle?
Well, it depends on the manufacturer. Generally, it's based on domestic, foreign, luxury, that kind of thing. So
let's do domestic.
When you think about ours, I mean, start to finish, you're what, 5%-ish, plus or minus?
That's correct. So on an average transaction, if it's 5% of gross on the vehicle, so what kind of a gross are you talking about on an average vehicle, of a domestic vehicle? Somewhere between, on the low end vehicles, about $900 up to the higher end vehicles can be $2,500, $2,600 per car. Does that sound about right?
Right.
And anywhere in between.
Right.
Right. So you have the higher end domestic vehicles that pay out a little bit more gross, and the lower ones, of course, they go for volume on those.
Yeah.
They have a lower gross amount.
So if we think back to our banker and she said $10,000, how much does that car need to be for us to pull 5%?
Oh my goodness gracious. Do the math.
$200,000.
$200,000 would be the answer.
How many $200,000 cars do we sell?
I can't think of any.
In the domestic world.
Yes, we're talking about the domestics currently.
But even luxury. I mean, when you talk about a luxury manufacturer, wow, we're going to go down a bunch of paths. When you talk about a luxury manufacturer and, a domestic, just your typical car, because domestics have luxury too. So I guess we should be careful on that side. But when you talk about the averages, they're very close. I mean, a luxury car average is not 200,000. I mean, when you think about, all the luxury brands that we know, they have lots of entry level vehicles that are, kind of comparable in price range to what our typical domestic
and the amount of gross there is on that deal, or profit there is on that deal. Yes.
Luxury is a little higher. But
a little bit. Why? Luxury is a little higher. Why?
Well, it depends on the manufacturer, right? Not all luxury manufacturers only build their cars. You pop those hoods. I mean, find a good domestic salesperson, and they will show you how common that vehicle really is. You can see part numbers, you can see logos of their little sister brands on many manufacturers.
Yeah, you certainly can. Yeah. And remember, domestics, for instance, and I'm just being you can find one-offs to all of these 100%. Things. Typically, the domestics you're selling in a higher volume, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Whereas an import, or a luxury, I should say, not even an import, but a luxury vehicle, you're selling in less volume. Right. There's more gross on those cars because of that. It offsets the difference.
Yeah.
Yes? And there's more room in it.
Yeah.
Okay? So let's break that down even farther.
Yep.
Let's just pretend that an average gross, if we do the math, an average gross is $1,500 on the deal.
Right.
Okay? How much of that do you think the salesperson should be compensated?
Should not actually.
Mm-hmm.
So every store is different. So we go back to our averages and everything else, right? The industry average, maybe you can tell me right or wrong, 18 to 20%-ish.
It's 18 to 22, so you're very close.
Yeah. So, I mean, everybody's going to pay. Averages are called averages for a reason. Some are going to pay less. Some are going to pay more. So it just depends. I tend to lean on the heavier side because, for me, those are the people that are doing the work every single day. Those are the ones that are leading to everything else. But when I say heavy, it's not 50%. You still got to keep the lights on. You still got to take care of everything else.
Sure.
And I have the luxury of, I can overpay and I still have the manufacturer pitching in additional money as well. So another discussion, should the manufacturer do that? Should they not do that? But yeah, from a percentage basis, it's very fruitful. We go back to our example of the real estate agent, they're single digits. We're double digits and we're double digits. So it's
With a lot more opportunity. I mean,
Way
what an
more.
amazing career.
Yeah.
Where it's fair to the consumer because there's not as much markup as they think there is.
Yeah.
But we're giving the consultant that deals with, builds the relationship with, and takes care of that customer a big fair chunk of that smaller portion.
Yeah.
But if you do it in volume, everybody wins. That's why I love it. And the other piece I really love is, to your point, the higher you get to pay, because you, like I said, get to pay, not have to pay.
Correct.
Like, get to pay the people that are working in the trenches with you, your sales consultants. By the way, we're just talking about sales for a second.
Right.
This is
Correct.
just variable.
Yep.
Okay. Because we're going to talk about the others. The more loyalty you gain with those consultants.
Yeah.
If I pay out the most because I appreciate you so much, you're going to stay with me at my dealership and take care of my customers. I should say our customers, right? The best, fully. That time that those sales consultants spend with each person that they deal with is unbelievable. The amount of time, if you break it down, if they make a $400 commission on a car sale, if you break out the amount of hours they spend, it really isn't as much as you think.
No.
Because of all the time that it takes to actually ultimately sell that customer a car,
Yeah.
right? So I love that fact. Now, the group that we are with takes care of their sales consultants, I think, better than anybody maybe on the planet. They're very, very fruitful. We do that for a reason.
Yeah.
We create employee retention by paying out a larger share of the profits.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Absolutely. I hate pay plans. I'll just throw it out there. And it'll be interesting to see what the feedback we get is, because we did this exercise when we were going through our financial statement with our managers, and they would not have guessed what our percentage payout was, because our payout percentage is higher. Yeah, but then you charge for detail and you charge for this and you charge for that. You pack it, pass it, whatever the reasonings are. Well, that's not the real percentage. I think as we were doing that exercise and they realized that our payout was way higher than they thought,
It was enlightening.
it was enlightening. It was an amazing step, because again, when the industry pays 18 to 22%,
Yeah.
and then you realize that your number's not in that range, you go, okay, well, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's one of those things, while you should be careful of your pay plan, you should also be mindful of your pay plan as well, because it may be paying out way more than you think at the end of the day.
Well, in ours specifically, but that's catch-22,
More or less,
isn't it? Yeah, because I can tell you this right now: if you are at average or below average, you're not creating employee retention.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's so game changing for an automotive dealership. If you have people, you walk into a showroom and you go, oh my gosh, that guy's been here for 12 years. That guy's been here for 18 years. That guy, I bought cars from that guy since I was 20 years old. That retention piece is it's priceless.
Yep.
There's not even a dollar amount you can put on that.
Yep.
That's why I love our group. If you want to get into the car sales business and you want a more than fruitful way to make a living and have fun doing it, it's all about the pay plan, maybe making you uncomfortable, is my opinion.
Well, and I think a lot goes into it as well, because why would you want to pay less? So sometimes it's want, and sometimes it's how you built your store. Like when I think about these big box car retailers, I promise you they're paying less. By the way, any of you that want to do this, and we should have probably done this before this episode, all publicly traded automotive dealers, they do publish their numbers. Mm-hmm. You can see exactly what their profits are. Mm-hmm. You can see how much they make in each one of those transactions. And that's my favorite part, is many times you think that you're getting better deals. Their profits are higher than our profit as independent car dealers that work with the OEMs. So I always think that's very interesting. And I lost my dog here.
Yeah, no, you're totally
Yeah.
fine. I like it. I think that we're talking about right now is actually or can be an uncomfortable topic. And you can hear it in probably my voice because I have so many thoughts. My brain is spinning on this.
Yeah.
I can tell you this, if you've been to the NADA, you've heard me say that, reference it many, many times.
Yeah.
If you're supposed to be 18 to 22% in commission and you look at your financial statement and you're at 30, 35%, you're going, I got a problem here.
Yeah.
I'm probably overpaying my sales consultants. I would argue that. I would say, yep, maybe. And I would say, good, right? So that's what I love about this pay plan discussion. How many pay plans, just with your tenure at the dealership you're currently at, how many sales pay plans have you gone through if you had to guess? Because I know you don't know the exact number. How many years have you been there?
8.
So you've been through at least 8.
Oh yeah, there's always at least one.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's my point. Nobody ever knows. We've tried this one. We've tried that one. We've tried this. I can tell you this. We can argue this one for several episodes.
Yeah.
Depending on your dealership, if you're domestic, if you're an import, even if you are a domestic, if you're a higher end domestic or a lower end domestic, we can all argue the pay plans. Here's what I suggest, especially for a sales consultant.
Yeah.
Find a place you're comfortable that you want to grow your entire career at, that pays more than a fair wage, and don't move.
Yeah. Stay.
Don't ever leave. Whether this is wrong or that, you do this differently or that, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Find that one family, that dealership, that group, whatever it is, and stay put.
And it's very interesting. So I do want to go back because I did find my dog now that I was thinking about it. You would pay less because of all the tools that you put with it. So, those big box places, they have more automated processes. We talked about AI in the previous episode. If you're a very heavy AI driven process, you're probably going to be paying less because you're not looking for those specialized people. You're spending a lot of money on robots and everything else to do the work.
Sure.
So, that could be perceived as, well, I don't need to spend as much, or you've spent so much in your technology that you have to pay less.
Yes.
As well. But going back to your point, find a place and stay. I think the thing that's unique, I don't know why I keep going to real estate, but it seems to be that
you like real estate.
I guess. Yeah,
Okay.
Didn't know that. But when the real estate market crashed, did the percentages go up or down for realtors?
That's a good question. Well, first of all, most of them got out.
Right. So if they stayed in.
Yep. So if they stayed in, it went down.
Well, it pretty much did. So their percentage stayed the same.
Their percentages did.
Correct. But their income went down. So in the car business, why do we change pay plans so much? Because I don't really want to talk about where I work now because it was exactly the same at my previous dealership. And if you're at a dealership that their pay plan stays the same, are you doing yourself a favor?
Right.
Because we think about COVID and in the automotive business, many of us are in the automotive business or you're a curious person learning about the automotive business. Highest amount that a dealership has made across the country, domestic, foreign, luxury, doesn't matter, was during COVID. Sales were up. Volumes were up. Our largest, when we talk about SAR, what's SAR?
Yeah. Well, first of all, back up. Don't get that far.
Yeah.
Right. So why were profits up and dealerships making so much money and people profiting so much during COVID?
Because
supply and demand.
Correct.
Right. So if the supply is low, the demand is high. And when the demand is high, the supply is low. Like it literally goes with that, doesn't it?
Depending on the dealership, if you were overcharging for it, right?
Yeah.
The used car market, that would be correct. But like my store specifically, we didn't charge over sticker. So
why not?
Our percentage stayed the same.
Why didn't we charge over sticker? What did we want to do for our local communities and our customers? We wanted to make it so that they knew we would never, no matter what, take advantage of them. And that's the same thing we do with our salespeople.
Correct. And that was a huge decision. Many dealerships went over, many dealerships didn't.
Yeah.
And still to this day, hard to find models, hard to find brands. Do you go over sticker or not? And maybe that's an important part of where you're searching to find the right home.
Yeah.
I love finding, when there's opportunity, we're going to get the most out of it.
Yes.
Maybe that's the right idea. It's just as we're going through and we're looking at it, we created incentives. During COVID, we needed to buy cars, so we paid more to buy cars.
I was just going to say.
So the incentivized areas of the pay plan.
Yes.
Some dealerships, here's your percentage, you're done. Our dealership, we like to use the pay plans to make sure that we're driving the needs that we have.
The expectations to change.
Yeah. So during COVID, it was hard to find used cars. So we paid heavily for used car acquisition.
Took care of our people. Yeah. And whenever you say pay plan, change of a pay plan. What do your people say? The first thing they do,
Oh,
here we go,
bad.
right? And then they look at it and go, oh, that's not so bad.
Yeah.
Because we are truly here to help. But if you're not changing, you're losing.
Correct.
Remember when I referenced the view only changes for the lead dog?
Mhm.
You know how you get to be the lead dog? You change. And you're constantly figuring out what you need to do to be better than you were yesterday.
Right.
And that it correlates to the pay plan. If the industry changes, supply and demand changes, and either way, for the good or for the bad,
Correct.
we need to change and adapt with our pay plans to make sure our people are taken care of fairly.
Correct.
And that's why, again, I love where we are.
Yeah.
And that's why we've been with them. So how long have you been with where you are? 8 years.
8 years.
I've been
Yeah.
there 19, it'll be 20 years
Yeah.
this year. And I will never go anywhere.
No.
You know that.
Yes.
I'll retire for this man, right?
Absolutely.
Because everything's, I wake up in the morning, I get to go to work today.
And there's benefits to both sides. I was listening to another podcast where we're talking about our family owned versus big box and in the whole 9 yards. And that's you as a salesperson have to find what's most important to you.
Yeah.
And, for me, it's always the best place that you can work is, find one of those mom and pop car dealerships. They always take care of their people. So and again, maybe you would take a lower amount. If I worked for a dealership that only owned one store and their commissions were lower, maybe that would be the most important part. I have to sit side by side with my owner every single day, and I want to make sure. I think I've got the best of both worlds because I have a large dealer group and it's family owned, so you still get the best of both.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Opportunity and pay. But
does he know your kids? Does he know what your why is? Does he know what pushes your buttons? Does he know who you are?
Yep.
I don't know many groups that can tell you that from the owner.
Well,
ours knows everything.
Yeah. But listen, if you're in California, you're trying to, but there's one out there.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
It's not,
they're everywhere. You just got to find them, and they're not easy to find.
This isn't a Michigan only thing. You can't be one of our 40 stores. You're not going to, there's plenty out there.
Yeah.
But you got to find them in your local state and area.
And I did cut you off. You brought up an acronym that I want you to go through. You said SAR, right? We talked about the total amount of retail vehicles we think are going to happen this year and registrations in the United States of America.
Right.
I did cut you off. I do apologize. And I went backwards for a second because I like to squirrel.
Yeah.
Can you please go back to that? I apologize.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, there's, every industry is full of different acronyms and everything else. When, as a salesperson, does it really matter as much, it should, but you're not going to go, all right, what did the SAR come out for this month, right? It's done on a monthly basis. It's extrapolated out to if the entire 12-month period were like this is how many cars that you would sell.
Correct.
And it took me a long time in my journey through the car business to understand what it is, why it matters, who pays attention to it. Is it something that still matters today because it did before? Is it going to moving forward? And to be fair, it is getting harder to predict. I mean, we've had the economy is moving much faster up and down than it used to, and then of course regulations, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're recording this, at a time when tariffs are a gigantic topic. Does that affect profits? Maybe not.
We're gonna find out.
We
I can tell you this: we're gonna find out.
We know what today's rules are.
Yes,
but
tomorrow, who knows?
When we know what they were when they were announced.
Yes.
But today, how is it affecting us?
Sure.
Goes into it too. And I would say as they're doing those, they're also paying attention to that as well. The automotive business is a huge part of the American, the fabric that creates this country.
Sure.
And we think about, some of us needed bailed out, some of us didn't need bailed out during the hard times, and I think we're getting into that time again where we need to be talking about it. Is everybody making enough money to still stay in business? And that's for you, the salesperson, how much the manufacturer makes has a lot to do with how much you end up making.
100%.
How much your owner makes has a lot to do with it. How much your department makes has a lot to do with it too. So. No, that's the only reason that I brought that up is just if it's going up, it has a different effect on your pay plan than if it's going down.
Sure. So just to summarize real quick, because we have other departments we have to get to.
Yes,
profit.
we gotta move. Yeah.
We have multiple.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted if you think this is fair or not fair. So a manufacturer, the way they set it all, we can talk and debate about all that, but the dealership specifically at the domestic and the import stores, not luxury or ultra luxury. I'm just talking about for the most part. Would you agree that the commissions, the profits for the dealer are anywhere between $850, $900 up to $2,800 ish on each individual car sale? Would you say that's a fair range?
Yeah.
And the sales consultants we've talked about, somewhere between 18 and 22, the group we are with pays more than that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
But would you say that's a fair range
Yeah.
for most automotive dealership? So you could make a pretty good living if you start doing the math. If you start doing the math on this, and you start as a sales consultant, you're going to start small. You're going to start slow. But in previous episodes, we talked about how you can speed that process up.
Yeah.
And where to find leads and how to get your career started quicker. Yeah. You can make a living pretty healthy pretty soon in your lifetime if you jump into this rather young, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's when we're doing interviews together, my favorite thing that you say is I have people that make more than doctors and lawyers here. Now, in this is where, so
I do say that. You're right.
So Paul and I do not like to prep for these episodes, but we do like to pick a couple of topics. When you look at like how do they create one of these episodes, it's like 4 or 5 words. It's not well thought out things. And one of them was, are we allowed to talk about commission? And you thought that we should or shouldn't.
I said, I think we need to step carefully and really maybe not really talk about exacts. And you said, no, absolutely, we're talking about that.
Yeah.
That's how that went.
Because one of the other words that we have is perception. And I think the perception is, when you talk about people making a lot of money, it's not necessarily a bad thing. When going back to realtor again, don't know why I keep going there, but when I'm selling my house, do I want the highest paid realtor or do I want the lowest paid realtor?
If I know Andrew Ruck, I would say close to the highest paid realtor because I know you.
Yeah, I want the highest paid realtor because they've sold the most. They have the highest clientele basis. Yeah. They know the market better. They're going to fetch the most money. They get paid the same percentage, by the way. Mm-hmm. If they show up in a 1991 Honda Accord, I'm going to have a different perception than if they showed up in a 1-year-old luxury car. Sure. That's, some would say, well, they're living above their means and they're flamboyant and they buy based on the car they drive. So I'm very interested in it. Mm-hmm. My realtor, for example, I mean, he's a firefighter during the day and a part-time realtor. So I don't necessarily do what I say.
Yes.
But it was a major part of the consideration. For me, I was worried about buying a house, not selling a house. So, we talked about materials and we talked about other things. I say I like the highest paid, but then I ended up
not with the highest paid. Isn't that funny?
Yes. But it's,
you're saying you get what you pay for?
You get what you pay for. But I will tell you, if I was allowed to buy with him and sell with somebody else,
you would have. Sure. I see where you went there.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say, the longer you're in your career, and I have said this before, stay where you're at, grow your career. It's your own business. Wherever you're at, stay there and grow so your customers know where to go to, right? Asking for those referrals will create your future business. 3, 4, 5 years into your career, your income almost doubles because all of your current customers that you're dealing with are coming back for or looking for their next vehicles, the ones that they personally bought, and you're dealing with all the new people on top of it. And then 6 years, 8 years, 10 years, all the way to 20 plus years, you start making more than doctors and lawyers because of volume, not because you're making it on the consumer, not because you're making it on the factory or the OEM. Yeah. What it is you're selling in bulk. Now you don't have time in the day to even take a new lead or a up bus, right? Which doesn't exist anymore. No. You're just dealing with the people you deal with, right?
And that's the main thing that I want to, and see, this conversation is going very well. Because the perception is that they're making too much money and there's a problem. But truly, it is volume based. And this is where, you as a consumer or you as a salesperson have to decide. I know, as I've seen other salespeople in our careers, there's people that purposely pick, I am going to be a low volume salesperson. I want to spend time with my customers. I want to build those relationships. I want to sell 10 to 12 cars a month for the rest of my life because I want to personalize it. I don't want a 1-hour transaction. I want 6-hour transaction. I want to sell a car every other day instead of every day.
Sure.
And those higher paid salespeople, they're selling 2 cars a day. They're not selling 10 a month. They're selling 50 a month. There's not a 10-car salesperson making as much as a doctor.
Of course.
But the 50-car salespeople, they are.
They make more.
And if I don't care about my transaction time, I'm an expert consumer. I did all my research. That salesperson is not going to teach me a thing. Go with the volume guy.
Yeah.
He's going to be perfect. She's going to be perfect. They're going to get you through the whole transaction.
You don't need them for that.
You don't need them for that.
Mhm.
But I always love the people that come in and they say, I want your brand new salesperson. I always go, why? What is it? And
They think they can manipulate them.
well, they could, right? Maybe that's part of it, but that just means the manager's coming out and staying more involved in it.
Sure.
The chances of you stealing one because you tricked a new guy into something's pretty small.
Mhm.
But I don't know. The altruistic side of me thinks that it's just people that they want somebody that doesn't know what they're doing, that's going to spend more time, that's going to be more conversational
Sure.
about it. And I will tell you, my volume people, I don't know how they do it. They make it appear like there's 36 hours in a 24-hour day. And I cannot for the life of me figure it out. One of the previous episodes, I talked about my volume guy that's in service all the time, but I never see him missing. So
Isn't that
how's
crazy?
he able to do that?
It's Houdini.
These are the Houdini salespeople that are volume that still give that personalized touch. So,
Yes.
I do want to caution my own saying that just because they are high volume doesn't mean that they're just transactional based.
For sure.
Um,
And the other flip side of that, not even a flip side, just to pile on to that.
Yeah.
Typically, the high volume people are the people that have already spent the time with and building relationships with those people that they're dealing with.
True.
They know their children. They know that their child's in the band and they just got back from a competition. They know all the things about them because they've spent the time and built those relationships over it. You're not a 40 or 50 car salesperson in the first 3 to 4 years.
No.
That takes a long time to get to.
Yeah.
Some people get there a little quicker than others. I will give you that because they're doing all the things you're supposed to.
Yeah.
They're getting to work and being all in and leaving work tired every day and asking for referrals and doing all the things it takes to be a high volume so they can get there quicker.
Yeah.
But they built those 40, 50 car people have already done the things that you're talking about. That's how they got there.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely agree.
Yeah.
And, think about how a salesperson's day is built. If I'm dealing with a network of people that I've already sold to,
Mm-hmm.
how much am I spending in service trying to find a new customer, making sure that I pick up the phone when the phone rings or calling the internet leads? Your best lead source, your customers are only going to buy a third of the time, a fourth of the time, a fifth. A cold call.
If you're lucky.
If you grab the phone book, 1 out of 100 people will buy a car from you. That prospecting time, it takes the most of it. When you have a large customer base that you're just building and expanding upon, you spend 10% of your time prospecting and you spend 90% of your time taking care of your client.
It flips over time, doesn't it?
It does. And that's why stop moving stores.
Yes.
When you
Stay
find
put.
when you find the right one, don't leave for an extra chicken nugget at lunchtime.
Yeah.
It's not going.
You've never used that with me
No.
before. That was a good one.
It doesn't lead. It doesn't lead to
Yeah.
it. The time does. When you started a new dealership, you start over again. Your customers, they struggle to find you because, again, at the end of the day, they want to buy from you, but you switch brands. You moved 30 miles away. You did whatever the reason was for you switching. The customer doesn't have that reason. They don't have that same motivation. So it's diminishing returns every time.
Yeah. And almost everybody says when they do move to a different location, dealership group, whatever it is, almost all of them say, my customers will follow me. I have news for you. Some of them will. Some of them, that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Your aunt probably will. But the people that are local to that community that you built a relationship with would love to still deal with you if you didn't leave. They're not following you. Some will, but very few. Just throw this out there for all the sales consultants listening. Again, find the is there going to be several days throughout your year, month, week, whatever you want to break it down to, that you don't like blank? You think this isn't fair? Stop it. Just please
100%.
Please stop that. Okay. You're going to have that. I don't care what business.
Yeah.
We could be talking about jewelry sales.
Right.
You're not going to like the way they did blank that day. Quit it. Okay. Put your head down. If you ever have a bad day, go for a quick walk. Don't ever make a phone call, take a lead, or talk to a customer in the wrong mood, and stay put.
The more cars you sell. End of story.
Yeah.
You pick the wrong dealership, the right dealership, the higher paying one, the lower paying. We're all very close to each other. You're going to make money, sell more cars.
Yeah.
End of story. Net. How much net as a percentage does a dealership make? If I'm looking at my retirement plan, I got all this money sitting. What business do I want to go into? Would I go into a car dealership? What percent does an average dealership keep?
So first of all, you're asking a crazy, lovely question.
Yeah.
I love this question because, no offense, net is why we are in business, is it not?
Why
Any business.
business is in business.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct. I don't care what business it is. Okay. So to answer your generalized question, because this is generalized because each department that we talk about is a different percentage.
Correct.
However,
Yes.
you said, and I quote, what should the dealership shoot for?
Mhm.
That is percent net to gross.
Right.
How much should you keep? Here's my gross. Here's my expense. By the way, what's the equation for net?
Right.
Gross minus expense is net, yes?
Yep.
Okay, so if I keep 20% of the gross, that would mean you're a superstar dealership. By the way, that's what everybody says. Oh, 20%. How many dealerships do you think are at 20% net to gross?
I would love to know the statistics.
I don't know the exact answer. I do know that it's very little. How's that?
And so the other side of it, right? 20 is perfect. When you hear most other podcasts, they talk about the margins are so small, because keep in mind, when we talked about overpaying our sales staff, did we cut somewhere else or did we just cut into the net? B for our dealer group, right? We have a tendency to overpay because we like volume, right? When you look at any of our specific stores, we don't buy dealerships to stay the same. We buy dealerships to grow.
Sure.
Depending on what your mentality is, maybe that's not what you do.
You are so right. I mean, think about this for a second. Just stay right there for a quick second. Just throw this out there. You are, true or false, you are one of the most volume-based dealers in the country, yes or no?
True.
Does that mean your consumers, which is the end consumer, whether you're talking about service parts, body shop, new cars, used cars, whatever, does that mean they're getting a good deal or a fair deal or a wonderful deal?
Great deal.
You are you not?
Yeah.
Because you're volume-based, to your point.
Yeah.
If you are a consumer and you go to your group specifically, you don't have to worry about, everybody feels this, whether you want to admit it or not.
Yeah.
I want to know how much they're making on me. I can tell you this, it's not that game.
No.
There are groups, there are dealerships that's the opposite of that.
Yeah.
Okay. So to your point, we're volume based. If you do volume, the more cars you sell, I don't care, you say new cars. The more new cars you sell at your dealership, does that help your service department?
Yeah.
What about your parts department?
Absolutely.
How about your body shop?
Yes.
Do you have lot damage on new cars?
Yeah.
Does your body shop help you with it? I know it's a bad subject for you.
That was a tough one.
Volume feeds the beast.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know there's dealerships out there that say, I want volume and unbelievably high gross. I would argue that.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go volume. Let's play the volume game. Let's take care of our consumers and our sales consultants. Yep. You won't make as much per car. I'll give you that. But man, volume makes up for that, doesn't it?
My favorite is when there's a new entry into a market. You see it all across the country, and we've all experienced it. Brand new dealer, an aggressive dealer comes in. They always go no profit, high volume. That's what they're trying. They have to start the market.
Stealing
Market share. They never stay there, though. They always start to ratchet it back up. And, for us, it's been, as we've been transitioning, volume, but it's also been focusing on that premium experience too.
Sure.
So we're, part of it's, we're doing more offsites, we're making it easier for consumers. That's helping. We have larger inventories than we've carried in the past. That's helping.
Sure.
But also making sure we're taking care of the customers on an individual basis. And, I've been very lucky. My last dealer group also paid a lot, but we were selling luxury brands and they needed to overpay us. The one pay plan I had, like, you would never, ever do. And every year I was there, just so we're clear,
kept coming back down.
Kept coming back down.
Yeah.
And they did start, luxury volume is different, but they did start bringing it back down. You could make what a domestic guy or gal makes in Michigan. We selling 50 cars, we were making on 10 to 12 cars.
A lot less volume.
But what I will tell you is that they wanted the absolute premium
Gross
of it. Well, but also the premium experience too. The expectation was, go to the house, you deliver the car. It's, you deliver it at the dealership, then you go back and you deliver it again. Our delivery times and expectations were 2 to 3 times we would do it. Part of your 1-year follow-up was, hey, are you ready for me to come back out and go over your car
again?
But they were buying time with the salesperson.
That's
So,
funny you say that. What a good what a good lead.
because we need to talk about
Service.
service.
So let's talk about service profits for a second. What does the service department advisors, the advisors in the service department, what do they sell?
Time.
What do you mean?
So, I mean, that it's interesting going from having a heavy sales background to learning about service and managing service. It's all time. There's only so much time in the day, and there's only so much space. Every technician, they have a bay. If there's a car in it, I can't work on your car. End of story. Salespeople, no, there's more chairs. I'll sit you over there while I sell that customer. And, we've all seen the salesperson that sells 3 cars at one time. A mechanic physically cannot fix 3 cars at the same time.
That would be tough.
They could have 3 bays,
Sure.
but the wrench only moves when their hands up. So you're selling time.
Yes. And time is so important to, we're going to talk about this for a second.
Yeah.
And now some of you out there are GMs and GSMs or controllers right now listening to this going, well, hold on, there's an adjusted cost of labor and we pay more than just the time. Okay, we're going to get into that at a whole different time.
Yeah. During that
during that episode, we will break that down. But
yeah.
For the most part, for you people out there going, well, wait a minute, I know something. I'm telling you, for the most part, we sell time. And let me ask you this question. Car pulls into the lane, service lane. Should there be an advisor that meets them at the car quickly, very quickly? We don't want to go out there 20 minutes later and say hi to them. We want to do it quickly when they pull in the lane. Should we do with that customer as we're talking to them at their car? Let's start there.
So if we're full service and we're doing exactly what we should be doing, it starts with a proper walk around to make sure that all of their service needs are being met.
So that we can give our technicians more time on their vehicle to fix it. I'm just trying to break this down all the way to the basics, right?
Yep.
So do the salespeople have to respond quickly to a lead or an up or a phone up or any kind of lead that they have? Very, very quickly? Do they have to do walkarounds with every single customer to make sure they're going through the features and the benefits and finding what they actually need for their vehicle to buy? The service people, when they come in, have that exact. So should we be training these people together?
Yeah, no, we absolutely should. And think about what that walk around is too, right? You're talking about time. You're talking about everything else. There's a lot of things that you can see on a car that needs to be done ahead of time. Because the biggest slowdown in service is the call. Oh, by the way, it has, you come in for an oil change, it's real easy to plan for. It's the what we found while we were doing it. When you're doing the walk around, you can find the body damage. You can, I already gave you the loaner car. Can I take care of the scratch on the bumper while it's here? Like, we're trying to help you. We're not trying to sell you a bunch of stuff.
Yes.
It's just get it all done at the same time. But, tires. Tires are the one thing that customers you don't think about until we tell you about it. You came in for
Does that build a relationship with them?
In trust, yes.
That's what I mean.
100%.
Same thing as the sales department.
Yeah.
Right? So up front, you're selling a tangible item. In the back, we keep saying selling time. What do we mean by that, right? How long does it take to do an oil change?
Correct.
How long does it take to do an alignment?
Yeah.
How long does it take? Whatever. You know what I'm saying? I can go through all of them.
Yep.
We're selling the time it takes our technicians to do something because they get paid. How? How does a technician get paid? Per hour of time that they have towards a job, right? So the advisor's job is to sell the most time on an RO, but to be fair, they don't want to sell something they shouldn't do.
No.
That's how you don't build a relationship. We sell what you do need. So if we're doing we get to them quickly, we do a proper walk around, and we actually go through each thing that they should do to maintain their car, not just what they came in for. We're selling more hours, right? So hours per RO, is that an important thing that we track and measure? What does that mean, by the way? What is hours per, what's an RO?
An RO is a repair order.
Oh.
You come in, that sheet that you have to sign,
yes,
that is the RO. That's the repair order. So everything that we're ordering for your car to be repaired goes on that sheet of paper.
Yeah.
We talk about HPRO, which is hours per RO, and that's how we measure. So if all I do is sell oil changes, I'm not doing it correctly. Because when I sell an oil change, it means we didn't look at the tires. We didn't look at the brakes. We're not helping the customer maintain the car. Again, we talked about this customer when we were on the sales side, the Leaf. The customer that comes in, I know exactly what my car needs.
yes.
It starts to be a little less often on the service side because we need to assist the customer in knowing that your brakes, you're at 40%. When you come back, please plan ahead. I think we're going to be close to being in that time frame when you're going to need to change them. Your tires are at, we start guiding you through that. We talked about salespeople not being called salespeople, but being called consultants. It's what we need to be doing on the service side too, which again leads to profits, but you need to be doing it in the right manner at the right place. Because why do service shops exist? Why do the Mr. Jim's tire shop even exist?
Because of all the things we're talking about, we're not doing at the dealership.
Correct.
We're not building a relationship. We're not spending the proper time with them. They're going in there for speed typically on those offsites. They're going in there for, imagine if you could have speed and relationship because you do it correctly.
Right.
That's what we're going to be talking about in future episodes.
Yes.
Right.
Oh.
So the profits of this is how much time. Well, let me not give away the answer. Okay. How do we make a profit in service? If we're selling hours, is there a cost to the hours?
Oh yeah.
Well, for what kind of cost?
I mean, it's the time the technician spends on it. Everybody that touches your car must be paid, right? So we're selling the time. Depending on your shop, my shop is very efficient. In the beginning, I didn't like it. I came from a shop where, you had a little specialization, but not a lot. Our profits in our service department are made because, we specialize everybody. So I got a guy that just does oil changes. I have a guy that just does transmissions. I have a gal that just does heavy, whatever it might be, they're specialized. So your average mechanic is going to take this much time to do a repair. When your mechanic is specialized and that's all that they do, I only put engines in vehicles. An engine can take 30, 40 hours, but my person, they've done it so many times. They've seen your car with your problems so many times. That fast, but yeah,
I was exaggerating for the intent.
A lot less time, right? And that's where the profit, so to speak, is made, because we sold that much time, we got it done in this much time, and we did it correctly. So the killer for service is I did it wrong. Now, so I saved 2 hours. Now I got to bring it back in. I got to do it all over again. That's the other thing. Doing it right the first time could be one of the biggest profit centers.
Couldn't agree with you more. And another one of the biggest profit centers could be having the right tech do the right job
every time.
Maybe we'll talk about that in a future episode when we get to the service department.
Yeah.
Right?
No, absolutely.
Does our body shop make profits?
Some.
It's okay. Bad question. So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
What does the body shop sell? Do they sell widgets? Do they sell time? Do they sell tangible items? What does your body shop sell?
Yeah, it's
a difficult one.
It's sometimes, but it may be a different way that I would describe it. Is there's a reason not every dealership has a body shop, and it's not because they're hard to find or you don't wreck the cars very often. That's very easy to do. Body shops are hard. When we talk about ideal net, what is the ideal net of a body shop?
You want my honest answer?
I was hoping you knew the answer.
I don't know this. It's 2%.
Tiny. It's a small
2%. You know my honest answer?
Yeah.
Break even.
Here's
why if you're doing it right.
Yeah.
Here's why I say that. I believe this is one of those necessary evils.
Yeah.
There are so much that goes into a body shop. By the way, there's a body shop specifically. You have warranty. Well, who pays on a warranty claim?
The manufacturer.
The the OEM. Yeah, the manufacturer pays for that. Then you have customer pay and you have internal, right? These are, just so you know, what's the bulk of a body shop's RO type of those three? What's the bulk?
Customer pay.
Customer pay. Okay. How much do customers want to pay when they have a broken car?
Zero.
Do you see how hard this can be? They're not maintaining their car. They're trying to put it back together again.
Yeah.
Like Humpty. Okay. Nobody wants to do that. That's why this is a tough one. Now, that being said, when you're a full shop, you're a store that has a body shop included. Not all stores do, but if you do, anything your customer needs, you're their car guy or gal. If they break their car, you can send that. I'm not talking about service, I'm talking about the body shop. You bumped into a pole, you were in a car accident, whatever. If you have a body shop, you're keeping that customer there. If you lose that customer because you don't have a body shop to another company, facilities body shop, chances are now they're going to buy their next car there.
Right.
So this is one of those, in my opinion, it's one of those necessary evils, right? Are there things you can do to be profitable in a body shop? Yeah, absolutely. Does it take more time than most departments to get there? In my opinion, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, but it's also a necessary evil. like loaner cars. We'll get to that in the future, right? So,
Because in my opinion, again, how does this relate to me as a salesperson? Why does the service department matter? Why does the parts department matter? Why does the body shop? Again, your dealership chose to have a body shop because they want to handle the customer start to finish. They want to build those lifelong relationships, right? They want them to keep coming back.
yes.
And as a salesperson, you got to stay involved because profits. We talked about commission. Commission is from profits. You're not going to get paid as a salesperson through 99.99 dealerships if your customer goes to the body shop.
Yes.
But I'm just telling you right now, you have to be a part of it. You need to be able to help your customer schedule the service appointment. You need to be able to walk them to the parts department. You need to be able to, show them where the body shop is if they have a concern or an issue with any of those departments.
Yes.
You want to be their car person, start to finish. You are your own dealership within a dealership. And if you know how the profits are made, you know how to keep, that relationship maintained and follow through with it so that you can continue to build it. Because dealerships, we love people that are built like that. Because if you're taking care of your customers, they stay there a long time and they buy a lot of vehicles. You service them, they fix them over the year.
Yeah. And I've referenced this in maybe it was the previous episode. I can't even remember. I'm talking so much.
Yeah.
And we're going back and forth so much. But we talk about most body shops are not on site. Right. They're at a different location. They're off site. And then, in my opinion, they get lost. What do I mean by that? They don't feel like they're a part of the whole dealership or the team, if you will. One of the coolest things I've watched you do over your career is you've done I believe it's every other Thursday. I could get that wrong.
Yes, yeah.
Is it every other Thursday? Every other Thursday or first and third Thursday of the month, you have your actual meeting with your management team at the body shop.
Right.
And I don't just mean to be there. Your people are talking to the painter. Your people are talking to the body techs. Your people are talking to everybody that's there at the body shop. I could keep naming all your people there. That, in my opinion, pretty darn important. They feel like they're a part of you. When there's a total loss, do they call your management team or call that certain salesperson that comes down and brings them pizza or donuts once in a while? But if you don't have those relationships between your body shop management and your main shop or main store management, man, you're behind the eight ball.
Oh, 100%. And it's the key is just keeping that whole store together. When we get to the financial statement episodes, if you're not letting your teams feel like one cohesive piece, then you don't make the team cohesive decisions that affect it. When they don't understand that relationship needs to be in parts, because when that recall pops up, they need to go get those parts. It just doesn't fit the same thing. The worst thing, probably should have talked about this in the previous episode. I mean, I hate to say this, but you do get leads out of your body shop as well. You're a brand new salesperson. You want to know your body shop because a certain percentage of those cars do get totaled out. And as parts are delayed, rental cars are more expensive than they've ever been before. Manufacturers don't just leave parts laying on the table. You're buying the newest, latest, and greatest, whatever. It's getting easier to total a vehicle anymore. And what happens when a car is totaled?
They're going to need a new one.
They're going to need a new one.
Yeah.
And it's a bad thing, but you want those relationships.
As long as everybody was okay, safe and sound.
Everybody's safe and sound.
Yes.
And sometimes it's a decision. Sometimes the consumer decides if I had to repair that much of my vehicle, sometimes your clients are going to ask the insurance company to total that car out.
Sure.
I could not tell you how many times we're close to totaling a car out.
Yes.
And then there's a conversation. The insurance company we will have body shop discussion.
Oh, we have a lot of them. Yes, coming.
We'll talk about the importance of insurance and who you pick and the relationships that you have. Do you need an agent? Do you go direct? All those conversations. But sometimes it comes down to, do I want this car when it's repaired?
Yep, absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
Okay. That being said, you've referenced a different department about 8 to 10 times during that piece. Parts and what they cost and how. Does your parts department make a little bit of money, a little bit of profit, a lot of bit of profit? Talk to me about parts and profit, and what do they sell?
Parts is slightly more than your body shop. And it depends how your parts department's built. If everything goes perfect, 10%?
It's 8. 8 if you're a good
Yeah, you're the best that's out there.
Yes.
And a lot of it, I can't tell you. It's crazy to me to think that when we talk about, okay, full MSRP, full sticker, maximum markup that a customer would ever pay for a part would be. And it's interesting when you get to the end because you still got to pay drivers and everybody else. Wholesale.
Ugh,
Does your
there's a whole
company,
different topic.
yeah, participate in a wholesale or not?
Yes.
Because that's even smaller.
Yes.
That
You're doing that for fun.
that would scare a body shop's neck.
Yes.
Uh, but again, you're either in the business of start to finish or you're not.
Mhm.
And when it comes to dealerships and parts, I mean, the really neat thing is somebody makes the part. And if you're going to buy an OEM part, you buy it from the dealership. That's how it all comes into play. The only reason, well, dealerships are more expensive. You always hear the cars are more expensive, the repairs are more expensive,
Parts are more
this is that.
expensive.
Well, it's because we sell OEM parts because that's what they were designed for. And
Mhm.
we do sell non-OEM parts, just so we're clear.
Yes, but not the majority.
Not the majority, right? We lean that way because we know that it's not more profitable, just so
No.
clear. If I were to sell you a third-party part, I will make more money on it.
Mhm.
Why are we always talking about the OEM part? And that's
Because it's the right one that's built for that vehicle, the one we stand behind,
Yep.
the one the factory stands behind if there is a problem with anything, and it's the right thing to do for our customers. I would rather my customers could go to sleep at night knowing they have the right perfect part in their car than hoping the third party part works. That
Yeah.
makes sense?
Yeah. And what was it tested? Was it
Yeah.
designed for?
I hope
Was it-
so, but I don't know so.
When you look through a parts catalog
Mhm.
and you see part numbers and what it's able to go on, you would be amazed. For OEMs, you do want as many parts fit on as many vehicles as possible, but I will tell you that the third parties, some of them are, but they're the more expensive ones.
100%.
So, generally speaking, we talked about it before, you get what you pay for. I'm designing this part to fit on this many different vehicles. You tend to see it more in third-party parts than you do see it in correct OEM parts. And that's where, you want those experts, right? I sell widget motors OEM parts. All I sell.
Yes.
I can tell you these are the perfect ones. Hey, those got recalled. My service department, we've done a lot of those. Hey, let's do this one instead, right? They have that. They're
Mhm.
doing it involved. When you go to Mr. Smith's Parts Emporium up the road, they're selling for all brands, all manufacturers. They got feedback from one guy one time about that, and they're giving you the information on it. And I'm not downplaying it, but you do need to understand the resources. If you're not the mechanic that works on that vehicle and you've tried it, every third party brand, every OEM brand, and you decided and you picked it, it's just not going to work.
Nope. And that's a scary, scary road to drive down. That's why I love the OEM parts. I really do. One of the big things, and again, we'll talk about each department.
Yeah.
We have enough material and topics to talk
Yeah.
about literally for over a year.
Well,
I've done the math. I know it goes fast, does
does.
it not?
It's amazing.
We talk about fill rate in the parts department and how important fill rate is so that we can get the turnaround for our guests back to them, their cars back to them, so they're not out of their vehicle. We'll deep dive into all that stuff in the future, but I appreciate all the topics, all the stores that we went through with profits.
Yeah.
Is anything else you want to say before we give them a teaser?
Oh, I mean, this is the point as we're getting into this third episode where you start helping us with some of these topics. So, obviously we've seen the comments on the previous two episodes, but this is where you start to shape it going forward. So, going on to the next one, we'll give you a little snippet on that. But as we build the fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth episode, we really want your feedback. So please let us know what you're thinking. But sorry,
No, that was
back
perfect.
there, but
please like and share.
Yes.
Please get the word out there. The more people we can talk to, the better. And in the coming soon episodes, it will be more like to your point, the topics that you're asking us to talk more about. Maybe it's a topic we've already touched and you want more. Maybe it's something we haven't gotten to yet. By the way, there's boards filled full of topics we haven't even started talking about. Like everywhere I look, there's topics in our room here.
Yeah.
So we want to know what you want to talk about, though.
Yep.
Right? Do we need to back up to the sales staff? Do we need to go back forward all the way to the general manager or the general sales manager position and deep dive into those? You tell us, and we'll be happy to do that. But please like and share.
Yes.
Right? We want to get the word out there to them. If you can't tell, we're having fun. We like where we work.
Yep.
We like doing what we do, and we kind of like each other a little bit. And what a good combo.
We're further into it. If this is your first time listening, please go back to the first episode. Learn what we're all about. Remember to like and share all the other stuff everywhere we are.
Till next time, episode 4. Thank you for joining us.
Here we come.